Hashtag the billionaire in the rain. The police found the body in Marcus Reeve's penthouse at 3 a.m., and every piece of evidence pointed directly at him. But Marcus wasn't in his $40 million Manhattan apartment that night. He was lying unconscious in a puddle behind a small-town diner, his designer watch stolen, his wallet gone, and his memory of the last 6 hours completely erased. 3,000 miles away from the crime scene, with no way to prove it, the man Forbes had just named, America's most eligible billionaire, was about to become America's most wanted fugitive. Elena Torres wiped down the counter of her late-night diner, exhaustion etched into every movement. The clock read 2:47 a.m., and her 5-year-old daughter Sophie was sleeping in the small apartment above the restaurant, the same apartment where Elena had grown up, the same diner her mother had built before cancer took her 2 years ago. The medical bills had devoured everything. The bank had given her 30 days to come up with $87,000, or she'd lose the only home Sophie had ever known. Elena's hands trembled as she poured coffee she couldn't afford to drink. That's when she heard the crash outside. She found him face down in the alley, rain soaking through what looked like expensive but now ruined clothes. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead. Every instinct told her to call the police and walk away, she had enough problems. But something about the vulnerability in his unconscious face reminded her of the way her father had looked the night he'd walked out, leaving her mother to raise her alone. She couldn't abandon someone like that. Elena didn't know that this single decision would either save her life or destroy it completely. "Hey," she said, gently shaking his shoulder. "Can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open, striking gray-blue eyes that seemed to hold both confusion and an odd relief. "Where am I?" "Cedar Falls, Oregon. About 20 miles from anywhere that matters." She helped him sit up against the brick wall. "What happened to you?" He pressed a hand to his temple, wincing. "I don't. I remember a bar in Portland. Someone put something in my drink. After that, everything's blank." Elena studied him carefully. Despite his current state, she noticed the quality of his torn shirt, the precise cut of his hair, the way he held himself even while injured. This wasn't some ordinary drifter. "What's your name?" He opened his mouth, then stopped. Something flickered across his face: fear, calculation, decision. "Marc. Just Marc." The lie was obvious. Elena had spent years reading customers, detecting the subtle signs of deception that came with running a cash business. But she'd also learned that sometimes people needed their secrets. "Well, just Marc, you've got 2 choices. Hospital, where they'll ask questions and probably call the cops. Or my couch, some aspirin, and pancakes in the morning." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "You always invite unconscious strangers into your home." "Only the ones who look like they're running from something worse than I am." She extended her hand. "Elena. And before you ask, yes, I know this is probably stupid. But I've made worse decisions." "I doubt that," he murmured, taking her hand. If you're already hooked on Elena and Marc's story, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single moment of what happens next. Marcus, because that's who he truly was, Marcus Reeve, CEO of Reeve Technologies and one of the wealthiest men in America, woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. Sunlight streamed through worn curtains, illuminating a small but meticulously clean living room. A child's drawings decorated the refrigerator visible through the kitchen doorway, and somewhere, a little girl was singing off-key to a cartoon-themed song. For a moment, he forgot everything: the company, the board members circling like sharks, the arranged marriage his family was pressuring him into, and now, apparently, a dead body in his apartment. For one peaceful moment, he was just a man waking up in a warm place that felt more like home than his penthouse ever had. "Mommy, the pancake man is awake." A tiny face appeared over the back of the couch, bright curious eyes, dark curls tied in lopsided pigtails, and a smile that could power a small city. "Hi. I'm Sophie. Mommy says you got hurt and you're staying with us. Do you like dinosaurs?" "I like dinosaurs. My favorite is the Triceratops because it has 3 horns and that's my favorite number." Marcus found himself smiling genuinely for the first time in months. "I do like dinosaurs. And 3 is an excellent number." Elena appeared in the doorway, spatula in hand, her long dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Even in simple jeans and a faded t-shirt, there was something striking about her, not just her beauty, which was considerable, but the fierce intelligence in her dark eyes and the determined set of her jaw. Here was a woman who had weathered storms and refused to break. "Sophie, let our guest breathe." She turned to Marcus. "How's your head?" "Better than it should be." He sat up slowly, noticing that his wound had been carefully cleaned and bandaged. "You're good at this. Practice." Sophie's going through her climbing phase. She handed him a cup of coffee. "There's breakfast when you're ready. Bathrooms down the hall if you want to clean up. I put some of my dad's old clothes in there, they might fit. Your dad won't mind." Something shuddered in Elena's expression. "He won't." Over breakfast, Marcus learned more about Elena's life in carefully gathered pieces. The diner had been in her family for 2 generations. Her mother had died. Her father had left long before that. Sophie's father was never discussed, the subject deflected with practiced ease. She was struggling, that much was obvious from the past 2 notices she'd hastily hidden when he came downstairs, but she served him breakfast like a queen presenting a feast, her pride armor against any pity. "So, just Mark," she said, sliding a plate of pancakes toward him, "what's your story? And before you answer, remember that I let you sleep on my couch, so you owe me at least a few truths." He took a bite, buying time. The pancakes were extraordinary, light, perfectly golden, with a hint of vanilla and cinnamon he couldn't quite place. "These are incredible." Deflection. Noted. But she smiled slightly. "My grandmother's recipe. The secret ingredient is, if you tell me, you'll have to kill me." Something like that. She leaned against the counter, studying him. "You're not a criminal. At least not a successful one. No criminal would wear a shirt that expensive to rob someone. You're not homeless, you're too well-groomed, even after a night in a puddle. You're running from something, but not toward anything. Which means whatever caught up with you, you didn't see it coming." Marcus stared at her. "That's remarkably accurate. I'm good at reading people. It's a survival skill." She refilled his coffee without being asked. "I'm not going to push. But if you're in trouble, you should know that Cedar Falls is the kind of place where strangers get noticed. Whatever you're hiding from, it'll find you eventually. Mommy, can Mark stay and play dinosaurs with me?" Elena looked at her daughter, then at Marcus, then at the stack of bills visible through the kitchen doorway. Something like resignation crossed her face. "Sophie, Mark has his own life. He can't just." "Actually," Marcus heard himself say, "I don't have anywhere I need to be right now. If it's okay with your mom, I'd love to play dinosaurs." Sophie cheered. Elena's eyes narrowed. "What's your angle?" "No angle. Just." He paused, trying to articulate something he barely understood himself. "I haven't played dinosaurs in about 30 years. Turns out I miss it." Something in Elena's expression softened, just slightly. "Fine. But tonight, you help with the dinner rush. If you're eating my food, you're earning your keep. Deal?" Marcus extended his hand, and when Elena shook it, he felt something spark between them, recognition, maybe. The sense of meeting someone who saw through pretense to something real beneath. He should tell her who he was. He knew that. But for the first time in years, someone was treating him like a person, not a portfolio. He couldn't bear to lose that. Not yet. That evening, the diner was chaos. Marcus had imagined small-town life as quaint and quiet, but Elena's place was packed with loggers, truck drivers, families, and a group of teenagers who seemed determined to make the most noise humanly possible. Elena moved through it all like a dancer, taking orders, delivering plates, mediating disputes, and still finding time to help Sophie with her coloring book during lulls. Marcus was assigned to dish duty, and within an hour, he was covered in soap suds and reconsidering every life choice that had led him to this moment. "You're doing it wrong," Elena said, appearing beside him with a stack of plates. "You have to scrub in circles, not lines. Lines leave streaks." "I have a PhD in computer engineering," Marcus muttered. "I've designed systems that process millions of transactions per second. I think I can handle dishes." And yet. She held up a streaky glass. "Circles, genius. Has anyone ever told you you're incredibly bossy?" "Frequently." "Has anyone ever told you you're incredibly useless in a kitchen?" Never. Because I've never been in a kitchen. Elena stared at him. Never. What did you do for food? There were staff. And restaurants. And a lot of takeout. Staff, she repeated slowly. So you're either old money or new money. Given the deer-in-headlights look you're giving these dishes, I'm guessing old money. Born with a silver spoon, never had to scrub one. Marcus felt heat creep up his neck. It sounds terrible when you say it like that. It sounds terrible because it is. But her voice wasn't unkind. Here. She stepped closer, guiding his hand in the proper motion. Her hair smelled like vanilla and coffee, and for a moment, Marcus forgot how to breathe. Circles. See. Even trust fund babies can learn. I'm not a trust fund baby, he protested. No. She raised an eyebrow. Then what are you? The question hung between them. Marcus could see the genuine curiosity in her eyes, along with something else, a wariness born from experience, from being let down too many times. I'm someone who's been pretending to be something I'm not for a very long time, he said finally. And I'm tired of it. Elena held his gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Yeah. I know something about that. The dinner rush ended around 9. Sophie had fallen asleep in a booth, her head pillowed on a stuffed dinosaur. Elena carried her upstairs while Marcus finished the last of the dishes, in circles, as instructed, and then sat alone in the quiet diner, processing the strangest day of his life. His phone had been stolen along with his wallet, which was both terrifying and oddly liberating. He had no way to contact his team, no way to know what was happening with the murder investigation, no way to fix any of the problems waiting for him back in the real world. For tonight, at least, he was just Marc. A man who'd been shown unexpected kindness. A man who was developing a very inconvenient attraction to a single mother with secrets of her own. Elena returned, 2 beers in hand. She handed him one and sat down across the booth, her feet tucked beneath her. Sophie's something special, Marcus said. She's my whole world. Elena took a long drink. Her father's not in the picture, before you ask. He was never really in the picture. We were young, I was stupid, he was, well, let's just say his family made it clear that a waitress from nowhere wasn't acceptable daughter-in-law material. They paid me to disappear. You took the money? I took enough to cover the medical bills when Sophie was born premature. 32 days in the NICU. Do you know what that costs without insurance? She laughed bitterly. The rest I sent back. I didn't want his family's money. I wanted my daughter to know that she wasn't something to be ashamed of. Marcus felt something in his chest constrict. She's lucky to have you. Some days I believe that. Other days. Elena gestured vaguely at the notices piled on the counter. I'm about to lose this place. The bank gave me 30 days 3 weeks ago. I've been trying everything, loans, investors, even GoFundMe, though I hated every second of it. Nothing's worked. So in 11 days, Sophie and I are going to be homeless, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it. The words hung in the air. Marcus's mind immediately began calculating. $87,000 was nothing to him, a rounding error in his monthly expenses. He could write a check right now and solve all her problems. But he remembered her face when she talked about Sophie's father's family. The pride that was both her armor and her cage. If he revealed who he was, if he tried to simply buy her out of trouble, she would never look at him the same way again. He would become just another rich person trying to assuage their guilt with money. What if I could help? He asked carefully. Not financially. But what if I could help figure something out? I'm good at problem solving. Systems, logistics, finding inefficiencies. Elena studied him. And what would you want in return? A place to stay while I figure out my own mess. Fair exchange. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay, hotshot. You've got 11 days to save my diner. And when you fail, because you will, at least I'll have someone to commiserate with over cheap beer. Challenge accepted. The tension is building, and we're just getting started. If you want to see how Marcus plans to save the diner, and what dark secrets are about to surface, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, ***. Over the next few days, Marcus threw himself into the project with an intensity that surprised even him. He analyzed Elena's books, disastrous but fixable, evaluated her menu, brilliant but underpriced, and studied her customer base, loyal but limited. "You're charging $6 for these pancakes," he announced on day 3. "They're worth at least $12. Elena rolled her eyes. "This is Cedar Falls, not Manhattan. People here can't afford $12 pancakes. Some can. The tourists passing through on the highway can. The Instagram crowd looking for authentic small-town experiences definitely can." He showed her his notes. He'd been taking them on a legal pad borrowed from her supply closet. "You've got a gold mine here. You just need to market it properly. A social media presence, some targeted ads, maybe a feature in a food blog." "With what money? My marketing budget is literally $0. Leave that to me." She crossed her arms. "You keep saying that. Leave it to me. I've got connections. Trust me. But you won't tell me anything real about yourself. How am I supposed to trust someone who won't even tell me their real name?" Marcus set down his pen. "You're right. And I'm sorry. The truth is..." He hesitated. "The truth is that there are people looking for me. Bad people. If they find me, it won't just be bad for me, it could be dangerous for anyone around me. The less you know, the safer you are." "That's very dramatic. Are you in the mob?" "Nothing that interesting. It's more, corporate espionage levels of complicated." Elena snorted. "Corporate espionage? Sure. That's completely normal and not at all concerning. I know how it sounds. But I promise you, I'm not a danger to you or Sophie. I just need some time to figure out how to handle things. And in the meantime, I want to help. Consider it payment for your hospitality." Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. Elena was the first to look away. "Fine. Keep your secrets. But if anyone suspicious shows up asking questions about a handsome stranger with terrible dishwashing skills, I'm selling you out immediately." "Handsome?" Marcus grinned. "You think I'm handsome? I think you're annoying." But she was smiling as she walked away. Day 5 brought an unexpected complication in the form of Victoria Chen. Marcus recognized her immediately, the sleek blonde hair, the designer clothes that screamed money even from across the street, the predatory grace of a shark in Chanel. Victoria was technically his fiancée, though the engagement had been arranged by their families and neither of them had any illusions about love. She was ambitious, ruthless, and currently walking through the door of Elena's diner with a look of barely concealed disgust. "Marcus." Her voice cut through the morning chatter like a blade. "We need to talk." Every head in the diner turned. Elena, behind the counter, went very still. "Victoria." Marcus forced his voice steady. "How did you find me?" "Your watch had a tracker. Your security team has been monitoring it since you disappeared. Imagine my surprise when it showed up in a pawn shop in Portland." She slid into the booth across from him, ignoring the sticky residue on the table. "The police are looking for you. Your face is all over the news. And yet here you are, playing house in some backwater town. Care to explain?" "I didn't kill anyone, Victoria. I was drugged and dumped here. I have no idea what happened in my apartment." "I know you didn't kill anyone." She waved a manicured hand dismissively. "The victim was Gerald Foster, your chief operations officer. The one who's been embezzling from the company for the past 3 years. Someone was cleaning house, and they wanted to frame you for it." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Gerald. Gerald, who'd been his father's most trusted advisor. Gerald, who'd walked him through his first board meeting and been a mentor for over a decade. "Who?" he managed. Victoria leaned forward. "That's what we need to figure out. But not here. Not while you're playing diner cook and making googly eyes at the help. Don't talk about her that way." The words came out harder than Marcus intended. Victoria's eyes widened, then narrowed. "Oh, Marcus. You didn't." "Didn't what?" "Fall for the local damsel in distress. That's so cliché, even for you." She gathered her purse, standing. You have 24 hours. Either come back with me and face this properly, or I'll tell the police exactly where to find you. Your choice. She swept out, leaving devastation in her wake. The diner was silent. Every customer was staring at Marcus with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. And Elena was looking at him like he'd just confirmed every fear she'd ever had about trusting people. Marcus, she said flatly. Your name is Marcus. As in Marcus Reeve. As in the billionaire accused of murdering his business partner. Elena, I can explain. You have a fiancé. You're wanted for murder. You've been lying to me from the moment we met. Her voice was shaking now, though whether from anger or hurt, he couldn't tell. Sophie trusted you. I trusted you. And the whole time, you were just, what? Hiding out. Playing poor person tourism until your real life caught up with you. It wasn't like that. None of this was supposed to happen. I didn't plan. Get out. Her voice cracked. Get out of my diner, get out of my apartment, and get out of my life. Whatever trouble you're in, it's not my problem. I have enough of my own. Elena, please. Out. Marcus left. He walked out into the gray Oregon morning with nothing but the borrowed clothes on his back and the sinking feeling that he'd just lost something precious, something he hadn't even realized he was holding until it was gone. The next 3 days were the longest of Marcus's life. He checked into the town's only motel using cash he'd borrowed from Victoria, who'd found the entire situation hilarious and was only too happy to watch him squirm. He spent hours on a burner phone with his lawyers, piecing together what had happened. The evidence against him was damning but circumstantial. Someone had clearly planned this carefully, planting his DNA at the scene, manipulating security footage, creating a narrative of motive based on recent disagreements he'd had with Gerald. But the real revelation came from his head of security, who'd been doing his own investigation. It's your uncle, James said over the encrypted line. Richard Reeve. He's been working with Gerald for years to siphon money from the company. When Gerald got nervous and threatened to go public, Richard had him killed. Framing you was just a bonus. With you in prison, the board would have no choice but to appoint him as interim CEO. Richard. His father's younger brother. The men who'd taught Marcus to play chess and given him his first programming book. The men who delivered the eulogy at Marcus's parents' funeral. Can you prove it? We're close. But we need time, and we need you to stay out of sight. The moment you surface, Richard will accelerate his timeline. Right now, he thinks he's won. Let him think that. So Marcus waited. He watched Elena's diner from across the street, saw the worry lines deepen on her face as the deadline approached. He saw the for sale sign go up, saw the bank representatives in their suits come and go. He wanted desperately to help, but every time he approached, Elena disappeared into the back. Sophie hadn't gotten the memo. On day 8, she found him sitting on a bench outside the motel. Mommy says I'm not supposed to talk to you, she announced, climbing up beside him. But Mommy also says I shouldn't eat cookies before dinner, and I do that all the time. Despite everything, Marcus smiled. How is your mom? Sad. She cries at night when she thinks I'm sleeping. I pretend I don't hear because it makes her feel bad when I try to make her feel better. Sophie swung her legs. Are you really a bad guy? You don't seem like a bad guy. Bad guys are mean to dinosaurs, and you played dinosaurs really nice. I'm not a bad guy, Sophie. But I made some mistakes, and I hurt your mom's feelings. Did you say sorry? She won't let me. Sophie considered this with the gravity of a 5-year-old philosopher. When I do something bad and Mommy's really mad, I draw her a picture. Pictures make everything better. I don't think a picture is going to fix this one. That's because you haven't tried. She hopped off the bench. I have to go back before Mommy notices I'm gone. But you should try the picture thing. And maybe also bring pancakes. Mommy loves pancakes. She scampered away, leaving Marcus with an idea forming in his mind. On day 9, Marcus made his move. He'd spent the night working with his legal team, calling in favors, and making arrangements. By morning, he had everything in place. Now he just had to convince Elena to let him explain. He found her in the diner's kitchen, alone, staring at a stack of papers that represented the sum total of her family's legacy about to be ripped away. She looked up when he entered, and he saw that she'd been crying. "I told you to stay away." "I know. And I will, after this. But first, there's something you need to see." He handed her a folder. She opened it reluctantly, then froze. "What is this?" "The deed to your diner. Paid in full. The bank accepted a wire transfer this morning." Elena's hands were shaking. "I can't accept this. It's not a gift. It's a business investment." Marcus took a breath. "I've set up a holding company, completely anonymous, that's buying into Elena's place as a silent partner. You retain full control, full ownership of the brand, full decision-making authority. The company provides capital for renovations, marketing, and expansion. In return, it gets a small percentage of future profits. You're not accepting charity. You're accepting a business deal." "Why?" Her voice was raw. "After everything, after the way I threw you out, why would you do this?" "Because you were right." Marcus stepped closer. "I lied to you. I came into your life with secrets and complications, and I put you and Sophie at risk. That's unforgivable." "But Elena..." He reached out, stopping just short of touching her face. "These past few days, staying in this town, being part of your life, it's the first time in years I've felt like a real person. Not a name on a door or a number on a stock ticker. A person. You did that. You and Sophie. And I can never repay that, but I can at least make sure you don't lose your home because of my mess." Elena was crying openly now. "I read about you. After you left. All the articles about the company, the murder charge, your family. You're one of the richest people in America." "I am. And you washed dishes for me. Badly. In my defense, they were very complicated dishes." A laugh escaped her, wet and broken. "I called you useless. I believe your exact words were, incredibly useless in a kitchen. Which, to be fair, remains accurate." She looked at the deed in her hands, then at him. "This doesn't fix everything. You're still wanted for murder. You still have a fiancé. You still have an entire complicated billionaire life that has nothing to do with me. The murder charge will be dropped within the week. My security team has evidence pointing to the real killer. As for Victoria..." Marcus smiled grimly. "Our engagement was a business arrangement, never a love match. I called it off 3 days ago. She was surprisingly understanding. Apparently she's been having an affair with my chief financial officer for months. That's a lot. Elena." He took her hands gently. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm not expecting anything. I just want you to know that whatever happens next, you and Sophie are taken care of. That's all I need." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she rose on her toes and kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, a question rather than a statement. Marcus answered by pulling her closer, one hand in her hair, the other at the small of her back. She tasted like coffee and cinnamon and something uniquely her, and he felt like a drowning man finally reaching shore. When they broke apart, both breathing heavily, Elena laughed shakily. "Well. That answers that question." "What question?" "Whether the attraction was mutual or if I was just projecting." "Definitely mutual." Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "Extremely mutual. Embarrassingly obvious mutual." "Good." She stepped back, straightening her apron with the air of someone trying to regain control of a situation that had thoroughly escaped it. "Because you're going to need to earn this." "Earn what?" "Me. Us. This." She gestured vaguely at the space between them. "You don't get to waltz in, solve everything with money, and expect a happily ever after. That's not how this works. You want to be part of my life. You show up. Every day. You prove that this isn't just some billionaire fantasy about the simple life. You prove that you're here for me, messy, complicated, terrified me, not some idealized version of what I represent. And if I do? If I prove it?" Elena smiled, really smiled, for the first time since Victoria's visit. "Then we see where this goes. Together." What an incredible turning point. If you're rooting for Elena and Marcus, show your support in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, the best is yet to come, ***. The next month was a whirlwind. Marcus's uncle was arrested, caught trying to flee the country with $40 million in embezzled funds. The murder charges against Marcus were dropped, and the real story, corporate betrayal, family treachery, a billionaire framed by his own blood, became tabloid gold. Marcus gave exactly one interview, carefully controlled, in which he expressed gratitude for his support system during this difficult time. He declined to elaborate on where he'd spent his weeks in hiding, but the reporters quickly lost interest when newer scandals emerged. In Cedar Falls, life continued. But everything was different now. Elena's place got its renovation, new equipment, fresh paint, a social media presence that Marcus designed himself. The mystery investor story became local legend, though most people had their suspicions about the handsome stranger who'd shown up around the same time. Sophie delighted in her role as assistant manager, which mostly meant eating free pancakes and bossing the new staff around. And Marcus learned to wash dishes properly. He learned the names of every regular customer. He learned that a 5-year-old's opinion on dinosaurs was not to be questioned, and that the secret ingredient in the pancakes was actually vanilla sugar that Elena's grandmother had made in a specific way that couldn't be replicated. He also learned what it meant to build something with someone. Not the corporate kind of building, where victory was measured in market share and profit margins. The real kind. The kind where you show up every day, where you fight and make up and fight again, where you learn each other's wounds and help them heal. 6 months after they met, Marcus asked Elena to marry him. He did it in the diner, during the dinner rush, with Sophie as his co-conspirator and the entire town watching. Elena said yes before he finished the question. 1 year later. The wedding was small, just family and friends in the newly expanded garden behind Elena's place. Sophie was the flower girl, scattering so many petals that the aisle looked like a battlefield. Marcus's remaining family, the ones who hadn't tried to frame him for murder, came from across the country, mingling awkwardly with loggers and truck drivers who'd known Elena since she was Sophie's age. Victoria sent a gift, an extremely expensive coffee maker with a note that said, "For your little venture. Try not to burn it down." Elena laughed and put it in the kitchen, where it became the most used appliance in the building. As Marcus and Elena took their first dance as husband and wife, he thought about all the unlikely paths that had led them here. A drugged drink. A dark alley. A woman brave enough to help a stranger. A daughter who believed that pictures could fix anything and dinosaurs were the answer to all of life's questions. "What are you thinking about?" Elena asked, her head against his chest. "How lucky I am. How I went looking for nothing and found everything." She smiled up at him. "That's very romantic. I've been practicing. Sophie's been coaching me." "Ah. That explains the dinosaur references in your vows. I thought they added emotional depth." Elena laughed, that bright, real laugh that had captured his heart from the beginning. "I love you, Marcus Reeve. Even if you still can't wash dishes properly. I love you too, Elena Reeve. And I'm going to keep trying with the dishes. For the rest of our lives." From her spot at the kids' table, Sophie caught their eye and gave them 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. Marcus returned the gesture, his heart fuller than he'd ever imagined possible. Sometimes, the greatest fortunes aren't found in bank accounts or stock portfolios. Sometimes, they're found in rundown diners and rain-soaked alleys, in the kindness of strangers and the love of a woman who sees past the pretense to the person beneath. Marcus had been born wealthy. But he'd become rich on a night when he had nothing, not his name, not his money, not his pride. Just a helping hand. And a second chance. Thank you for joining Elena and Marcus on their journey. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs a reminder that love finds us when we least expect it. Subscribe to this channel for more emotional stories that celebrate the power of kindness, resilience, and second chances. Your likes and comments help more people discover these stories, so drop a heart below and let me know what moment moved you most. Until next time, remember, sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones we almost walk past. ***.